take off your 3D glasses and please join me in welcoming back to the stage Bill Jones, Ben Timlin and Jeff Simpson, the directors of Elias Autobiography, the true story of Monty Python's Graham Chapman. So this is the part where you all tell the lads what you saw in the film and ask them the questions that you must have about it. So if you've got a question or a comment, put up your hand and I will point to you and you will ask your question, make your comment, and that's how it will go. And we already have a question from this gentleman here in the middle. Yes, sir.
Not really a question, but a comment. Being a Python fan since the age of 4, because this guy here corrupted me, I just want to thank you for making a very enjoyable film.
Thank you. So this all started, the film itself, with the discovery of the tapes, Doctor?
Yes, it was about 5.5 years ago, actually. I went to see David Sherlock at his house in North Wales. And at that time I was trying to make a documentary about Graham. I thought it was an interesting subject to deal with a man who was openly gay but secretly alcoholic. It was a good story in that. And I was hoping David would have some kind of home movies or something to help me bring to life a documentary. But he didn't really have anything like that, but he knew of the existence of the tapes. So it then took me a while to find them. And that's when I did, I walked into the offices of these guys with an idea for a documentary with Graham's voice, narrating and basically narrating the documentary.
Yeah, so Jeff came in and he had, it was still wanted to do a sort of talking heads part, but he had this narration which could be animation. And me and Bill had just done a documentary series called Monty Python Almost the Truth, which was a 40th anniversary Python thing. We were
Emmy nominated.
Yeah. Thanks for clapping that we didn't win. And so we really didn't want to do another documentary, and I think the Pythons themselves were probably sick of talking in a sit-down interview kind of way. So we, then the kind of eureka moment was when we realised, because Graham had written a lot of the book as scenes, and the fact that when we listened back to the tapes, he performed his own lines, but he didn't perform other lines. So he couldn't be bothered with the other lines, or maybe he knew we were going to do this, but we realised that we could then cut out and replace the other parts with the Pythons, and they loved the idea, so that's how it was created, I suppose. Another question?
What had he actually done the recordings for initially?
It was, I mean, it was basically, he was out drinking with Harry Nelson, who had a recording studio. What was Harry Nelson's song, by the way?
Everybody without you.
I can't live without you. And,
here's a little number we recorded.
and basically they were like, we've got he was promoting his book, and they were, Harry Nelson's got a studio, so they just thought it's a great idea, and they put it out as an audio cassette, but it was a bit before you really had audio books really, so I think it fell by the wayside.
It was a sort of early attempt at an audio book. Yeah, that's what you said.
That's what I just said.
Yes, right there, sir. Yeah.
Just your selection of the animation. There were 14 different animation companies selected to paint the story in all different ways. Can you give us a bit of the rationale behind that? Because it was rather effective, different people telling the story in different ways.
14 different animation companies. You didn't want to go for 15 or 14?
We did it by random, and we went through a long process of looking at originally 50 different companies and various different sections of the book of what we created, what we were doing. We could see there were certain styles we were definitely after that we'd seen other animators do, and we were really keen on those styles. But then other things just developed, and we would send out kind of 3 sections, sometimes 2 sections, and they would, with sections that we thought that they would be good for, mainly, you know, people that we thought were great animators, and they would pitch on those sections and come back to us. So it was kind of a dating process.
I think, to be honest, originally we were thinking more along the lines of just dividing up chapters or sections, or maybe doing different looks for different decades. But when we started to see the different styles that the animators were offering, we realised we could use them to, without wishing to sound pretentious, to explore different emotional spaces. So, for example, the drying out sequence where he's in his bedroom with that very vivid kind of oil on glass style and that kind of oily look to it, that was perfect for the that horror of drying out, but it wouldn't have been right for Cambridge, for example. So using different styles, it enabled us to go into different areas. And I mean, the LA parties at the end where it's going around and it's a kind of tissue paper style, which makes the people kind of transparent, which is actually what I believe they are in LA. So that you know, when we started to see that, we realised there were great opportunities there for the storytelling.
Was there any thought of going back to the original Monty Python type of animation, even if it just as a little bit of a tribute?
Well, it's funny, people have interpreted the Oscar Wilde scene as a tribute to Terry Gilliam, which it wasn't really conceived in that way, but I suppose that cut out style. But no, we just really, I mean, we talked to Terry.
Yeah, I mean, we asked him, obviously, and he didn't want to do it. So, so then we decided that what we didn't want to do was emulate him. You know, so we were really made it clear to all the animators that we wanted to bring their styles to it rather than Ted Gilliam. Obviously, he's an inspiration for every single one of them, but we didn't want to do a tribute. No.
Because it's not a Monty Python film; it's a Graham Chapman film.
Correct.
Over here.
To the animation point again, how long did it take you to piece this together? Was it logistically difficult? A nightmare, maybe?
How long did it take to put together?
That's a leading question. Were you involved?
I mean, the amount of time it took us for the animation to be made was about. No, I mean, it's about between 6 and 8 months to make the actual animation style, and it took us about 2 months to cut down. The audio book was 180 minutes long, and so we cut that down to the story that it was there, and that took us about 3 months.
In terms of working with 14 different animation companies, we quickly discovered they were all doing their work at the same time. We gave them the tapes, we gave them the edit of the tapes and the script and left them to get on with it. But each one had their own different flow of workflow processes that we had to kind of understand. And so at one level we were just letting them get on with it, but then we had to kind of just get to grips with how they were doing it and what they were doing and enjoying it when it came back.
The person that should take credit really is who's not actually here at the moment, our animation producer Justin Wayers, who really had the job of wrangling them all, and also had to, when we had the idea we wanted to do it in 3D, we went to every one of the companies and said, have you done 3D? And they all said no. And we thought, this can't fail. So basically Justin effectively had to learn himself and then teach all these different animation companies 3D with their own styles, which was quite an amazing achievement. But he's not here, so he can't hear me say this. I'll never say it again.
What did people think of the 3D? Was it too much? Was it okay? Or we didn't want things jumping out the screen at you the whole time, because it can be too much. But
no penises.
Right on the front there, yes, sir.
So you had to cut down from 3 hours. What got cut, or was there sort of a theme you were working with?
What was cut to bring the film down to the final cut?
I mean, one of the requisites was that it had to be a scene where there's dialogue and people talking. So then certain scenes where he's just describing it, we thought, oh, we can't use that. But then there are scenes that, the moment he starts talking about his sexual conquest and he's going around shagging lots of people, and we were like, well, we really want to have that in the film, but there was no dialogue. So then we turned that into the musical number, which sits on my face musical.
There is one scene that we really wanted to include, which is not even on the tapes actually, but that's the describe the vagina. And because that really tells you something about where the world that he was emerging from. So, but of course, then we realised that he doesn't have to say anything in that scene. He just kind of shies away and watches all the action. So, yeah, sometimes we were able to crowbar a few ideas.
Yeah, so that scene was in the book, but he hadn't recorded it when he recorded the audio set.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
You get me
With most of the people that were in the film, it just makes sense for them to be in it. How did Cameron Diaz come to the project?
Sorry, how did?
Cameron Diaz.
Oh, Cameron Diaz as Sigmund Freud. Inspired casting that.
Well, I haven't really got. She was the only choice. So that answers your question.
She got the joke. We sent her an email that said, look, we realise this is a bit of typecasting, but can you just do it one more time, if you don't mind another go around? And she's a huge Python fan. She came into a studio in Tampa, Florida, and we directed her over Skype. And she did it twice in her own voice, which was fine. And then she said, but I've also been practicing this funny little man. I've got this voice in my head, I'd like to hear it. And that came out, that Austrian, perfect for the founding father of modern psychoanalysis. So she got the joke, and we're very happy.
Yes, sir. Over there. Eric, I had a little slack of participation.
I mean, we did ask Eric if he wanted to be involved, but he basically said he was busy. So you have to read into that what you want, really.
Yes, sir.
When it came to the animations, did you storyboard it out for the animation companies, or did they sort of inject their own ideas into how the animations flowed?
Did you give the animation company a storyboard, or did they come up with their own?
I mean, basically, when we cut the audio, but we were also writing a script at the same time, and so they had their audio clip and the script. But then a big part of it was letting them put their ideas in, and the first thing they did was an animatic. And the first time we could actually put the film back together was when we got all their animatics back, and we could then edit that into an animatic version of the film, and that was exciting. And we watched it back and we thought, this is great, this is working. And then Bill said, yeah, that's only working because everybody, all the styles are different, but we're watching it all in black and white, So that was that.
There's an example actually, which is the scene of dialogue between John Cleese and Graham Chapman. We knew that was going to be a scene that we really wanted to highlight because the dialogue is so delightful. But as written in the book, it takes place in the villa where they're writing, so there wasn't any action or movement in it. But Graham mentions, let's get some bikes and go and explore the island. So we wrote in the script, let's get some bikes, and handed it to the animators. But when it came back, the animators themselves had put them on a tandem. And then this became this fantastic metaphor for John Cleese at the front, panting, and Graham sitting at the back and enjoying the view. So that was an example of the animators taking our ideas and taking them one stage further visually, really.
We've got time for 2 more questions, so...
Can one of them be the plastic question?
That might be it there, up in the back, yes.